Hey everybody out there, my name is Scott, but you can call me White Rice Sensei or just Sensei. And I'm broadcasting to you live here in Sasebo, Japan. This is going to be Enough Japanese Lesson 2. Let me pop that up on the screen. And if this is your first time joining, there's always the opportunity to go back and check out last week's lesson. All the lessons will always be available to be streamed after the class is over, so you can go back and review and practice. In fact, if you haven't already, why not go ahead and subscribe to the channel now? That way you get, updates and information that I put out. I also like to make cheesy little YouTube-like videos, and sometimes they're actually informational. I'd like to think they're pretty fun and cool and awesome, but I know they're not. Otherwise, I'd be a viral sensation by now. Hey, but I gotta start somewhere. So anyway, subscribe to my channel and you'll be able to watch this lesson again and again as many times as it takes to master what I'm throwing your way. So let's start lesson number 2. First of all, I'm just gonna give a throwback one more time to my 3 tips for success. And I hope you took note of those last week, because this is the way to get your Japanese up to par. All right, so don't give up. I'll say this a million times. Don't give up. This is week 2, and you may be thinking, this is too much of a time investment. I didn't think, it would take this much time. But hey, don't give up. If you're feeling like you're not going down the right path, or you need some more, help, or you need a push, just ask me questions. My way to teach Japanese is not the only way. So if I'm not coming at you your way, let me know, because I don't mind sending students to other teachers or other methods. I'm not that arrogant, so ask questions if you feel lost, or if you want to get ahead, for that matter. All right? Speak out loud. When I say something and ask you to repeat it, say that out loud. Hear yourself say it. Because if you say it and it sounds weird, then chances are you're probably not saying it right. So speak out loud and be in a place where you don't mind speaking out loud if you can at all. Don't do this in the laundromat unless you want to be that weird guy in the corner. But anyway, speak out loud and then use what you learn. If you learn something today, hopefully you will. It's about restaurants and food. If you learn something today that you can use, go out to a restaurant and try it. This is meant to be a practical Japanese class, so I want you to use everything that I teach you, wear it out, and then if someone says something different or weird that you didn't expect or what I didn't tell you, come back at me with questions, because hey, there's not just one right way to say something. Cool? All right, so I'll get off my podium here about what to do and how to study, and let's do a quick review just to make sure we're all back on the same page. So here we go. I'm going to give this a quick review. So repeat after me. Hajime mashite. Hajime mashite. Remember, the shi can be shortened. Hajime mashite. That means nice to meet you. And then you'll want to say who you are the first time you meet somebody, right? Who am I talking to? In easiest terms, we're just going to say our first name and then followed by des. And that's it. So repeat after me, but put your name in place of mine. Scotto desu. Scotto desu. Okay? And here's my little note on the side. The subject in Japanese can often be completely omitted. So, if this were grammatical, it would be watashi wa scotto desu. But to make it short and sweet and casual in a casual conversation, just say your name desu. Scotto desu. All right, one more time, the whole thing. Repeat after me, the whole thing. Hajimemashite, Scotto desu. You got it? So be on the lookout for this mark here. When you see this casual conversational mark next to a phrase, that's something that I would consider saying to somebody who's close to your age or that you're friends with. Not necessarily to somebody you just met out in public or somebody who might be older than you or in a higher position. And that's all about culture. We'll get into that later on. Okay, one more review. Last week, our question word, do you remember it? It's who, which in Japanese is dare. Or asked like a question, dare? Dare? Okay? Do you remember the word for friend or friends? Tomodachi. Tomodachi. So when you ask the question, who is this in Japanese, it sounds like this. これは誰? これは誰? And that is simply saying, this is who? This is who? And it's as though you were asking for who's that person on your phone or something like that, or who's sitting next to you. これは誰? The answer is, do you remember how to say it? これは私の友達. これは私の友達. And remember, 私の友達 was just a set compound noun meaning my friend or my friends. これは私の友達. All right, so that's it for the review. And we're going to go right on into today's lesson, which our focus today is going to be on the question word what. And in Japanese, that sounds like this. Nani? Nani? By the way, if someone ever says something too fast and you don't understand, you can just say, Nani? Like, what? What was that? All right, so today I try to put ourselves in this scenario here. I try to put me and you in this scenario. We're sitting down at a restaurant or a cafe, and we're trying to figure out what's on the menu. But based on the picture, it might be a little unclear, like, is that beef or pork, or is it fish or meat? It's sometimes hard to tell, believe it or not, if that's fried, if it's fried. So you might not be able to tell from the picture. So today you'll want to learn how to ask, what is this, or what kind of food is this? And you'll see in a second how that's going to come out. So the theme is what's on my plate, or better yet, what's on the menu before you order it, before you order the wrong thing, if you're allergic or if you have a religious need to not eat a certain kind of food. So our goal today is to learn pronouns this, that, another that, and which. Then we're going to do the question, what is this, and how to both ask and answer that question. And then we'll know several categories of food or main ingredients. Now, this is not a all-inclusive list, so feel free to look up words on the internet, especially if you have food allergies. Alrighty, so let's kick it off. So the first topic today is pronouns. And in Japanese, the word this, that, and that, it's all relative to the speaker, the person talking about the pronoun. So if you don't remember what a pronoun is from your English class, a pronoun is just a noun. It's a generic noun that can take the place of another noun. So like it, or this, or that. And it can take place of people as well, he, she, so on and so forth. So the three categories I want you to focus on today are, is it close to the speaker? That's this little girl here on the left side. Is it close to the speaker? Is it close to the listener? That's the boy on the right side here. And that would be, of course, in real world, somebody you're talking to. And then last but not least, is it close to neither the person speaking nor the person listening? And that would be something like on the wall or maybe in another room, something like that. But something that you might be able to point at. All right, now what are these words? Let's go through it. So starting with kore. You should have learned this last week, but kore. Kore can take the place of anything. It can take the place of this cup of water. It can take the place of this, digital or optical mouse here. Kore can literally take the place of anything. All right? So it substitutes for the word kore. Instead of saying this mouse or the computer mouse, you're saying kore, this. And when you say kore, you're talking about something close to yourself, you, the speaker. And therefore, if I say kore, it has to be close to me. All right? So if we flip the table, okay, and you are talking about something that's close to me, and you're pointing and you're saying, hey, give me that thing, sore. All right? Try that. Repeat after me. Sore. Sore. Okay? It's not a hard R sound either. It's kind of between the D and the L and the R sound. Sore. All right? That's close to the listener. Remember, the boy with the box at the circle next to him, okay? Next, we have something that's close to neither of us. Neither me nor you, the speaker, nor the listener. And that would be are. Okay, so sitting in your room or wherever you're at, just point at something in the distance, not close to you or the people in the room, and just say, are. Are. All right, if you're out in public, you probably look like a loony right now. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, so let's repeat those real quick and just do this little motion with me, okay? Point at yourself, then at maybe the computer if you're talking to me, and then off in the distance. Ready? Repeat after me. Kore, sore, are. All right, there's a lot of funny videos out there on YouTube if you want to get more practice at this that teach this lesson. Kore, sore, are. And then last but not least, and this one's not used quite as frequently, but when asking which, like, hey, Scott, can you hand me that? And I'm going to say, dore? Which do you want? Do you want the mouse or the cup of water? Okay? Dore? All right. I want you to pay attention here on the left side of the screen. Okay, I'm going to underline ko, so, a, and do. And you'll see why on the next slide. So there's a rule that we foreigners like to use to help us remember pronouns, and it's called the ko, so, a, do rule. Ko, so, a, do. Try just saying that. Ko, so, a, do. And this is the secret to Japanese pronouns because, hey, you just learned 4 new pronouns. It's going to be hard to keep it straight. Here's the secret, okay? Here's the secret. Any pronoun that starts with ko is close to you. And you might have heard someone say koko or kochira or kono. Anything that starts with ko is close to you. So kore, close to the speaker, right? Anything that starts with so is close to the listener. So. Next, anything that's close to neither of us will be a. It's always going to start with a. And when somebody's unsure of which thing is being talked about, that word, the question word, will always start with do. I swear to God, I haven't met an exception to this rule yet. So you should really remember this. Ko, so, a, do. And there's going to be an exercise at the end of this lesson. So don't forget it, right? I hope you have a notebook with you. Ko, so, a, do. One more time. Kore, sore, are, dore. Alrighty. By the way, anytime you have questions, I'm trying to glance at the chat. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to ask. And otherwise, I am moving right along. Okay. So looking back at our example, let's see if you can fill in the blank. What is the pronoun close to the listener? Kore. Did you get it? I hope so. We just went over it. Remember, ko, so, a, do. Next, what is the pronoun for a noun next to the listener if you're pointing at something near the listener? Sore. Sore. You got it? And you know where I'm going with this. Now we're talking about that calendar back there. How would we refer to the calendar? It's close to neither of us, right? Are. Are. Pretty simple though, right? I know if you're anything like me, the first, 2 or 3 weeks you try using these, you're probably going to get them all mixed up. But that's okay. Don't get discouraged. Just remember that ko, so, a, do. And you'll never go stray. Alrighty. So, and then here's a example, okay? The listener doesn't know what you're talking about because you just started using the wrong pronouns. And he is going to ask, which one? Which? What's the word for which? Dore. And it sounds like this. Dore? Dore? Okay, so if we're talking about that power drill or the battery drill right there, do you remember? Kore. Okay, the bug, closer to the listener. Sore. And then last but not least, our calendar in the background. Are. All right. So that is your pronouns for this class. Again, there's going to be an exercise at the end, so I don't want you to forget that. Don't brain dump that. But we are going to jump into another question word besides dore, and that is today's question word, which is what. And this is a word that you'll want to know for everything because you're walking around Japan, you might not know a whole lot of nouns yet. So you're gonna be like that toddler, that little 3-year-old, and this should be your favorite word in Japanese. Do you know what it is? Nani? Nani? Okay, so I want you to be walking around Japan. Anytime you don't know what something is, and if you're with somebody who knows Japanese, or preferably, a Japanese person, just grab something. Nani? 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 Wear that thing out until you know everything around you. And then you'll know all the nouns, and you'll be super smart. Alrighty, so let's talk about some food nouns. Food nouns. And I'll probably post it in the description of the video, but food as a sort of topic is known as tabemono. Tabemono. And I'll write that down somewhere, but tabemono is food. So let's talk about tabemono. First we have vegetables. And this refers to, remember there's no plurals in Japanese, so vegetable or vegetables, that is yasai. Yasai. But if you say it quickly, the sa and the e kind of smush together, and it'll sound like this. Yasai. Yasai. I hope you're saying it out loud at home or at work or wherever you're at. All right, next we have the word for fruit. Kudamono. Kudamono. And I'll say it at regular speed. Kudamono. Kudamono. Next, we have the word for fish. Sakana. Sakana. And that's a generic word for the category of fish, or if you're just pointing at an object on the table, sakana is fish, okay? This, of course, as you know, is sashimi, because there's no rice there, it's just cuts of fish. But anyway, sakana. And then next we have the category of shellfish. And it's a pretty easy word. Kai. Kai. And that refers to things that, living things that live in shells. Okay, so it's the generic category word. You might know some specific shellfish like kaki or hotate, but that's for another day. All right. By the way, go out and look these words up. If you love scallops, you better know the word hotate because you're going to want to order them, right? Alrighty. Let's talk about meat, okay? So first, the generic word for meat, as in the category of meat, is niku. Niku. Okay, one more time. Repeat after me. Niku. Now, you may have noticed in all of my flashcards here that I made, I put the kanji characters, right? So we have the English word, then we have hiragana here, then we have kanji, and that's the characters that came from China. And then we have romaji, and that's the way that we would pronounce it with our English characters, romaji. But the reason I'm pointing that out right now is look at this character right here, niku, because it's going to show up a lot. You ready? For beef, we have gyu niku. Now, notice there's a doubled vowel sound here with two U sounds. Okay, that just makes the vowel sound longer. One more time, repeat after me. Gyu niku. Gyu niku. And look right there, you can see niku, the same kanji. So hey, remember this, put this in your brain, because if you're at a restaurant, you're going to want to know what is meat, right? What is meat? So remember that. And if you're a big steak eater, this is the cow character. All right, next. For pork, we have butaniku. Butaniku. Again, niku right there. And as you guessed it, buta is the kanji for pig. Okay? And then last but not least, we have the word for chicken is toriniku. Toriniku. Okay? Tori is actually a word, kind of a generic word for bird, and the most, frequent bird eaten in Japan, probably around the world, is chicken. So toriniku is the word used for chicken. And you can see here there's actually two characters that represent chicken here, and then niku once again for meat. Okay? Pretty straightforward, so I want you to know those vocabulary words. And one more thing about tabemono. Remember, tabemono means food. We have another way to say fruit. In fact, you might actually hear this said more often. So it sounds like this. Furutsu. Furutsu. See the double vowel sound there in the middle? Furutsu. And then we have this one. Now you're going to sound a little weird saying this. Chicken. Chikin. Chicken. So why? Why two different expressions? You're going to see this a lot. I might teach you a word in Japanese and then you find out that people don't actually say that thing. Well, I want you to know the Japanese word, but it's really common in Japan for people to say a word or a food, right, by its foreign name. It might be, from France or Europe, and it might be from America, but nonetheless, they might say it by the foreign name. And so therefore, when it's written on a menu, you won't have that little hint with the kanji. Remember niku? It'll be written in katakana instead. So as you're getting better at Japanese, you may want to learn katakana if you really want to master Japanese, so you can spot those chickens on your menu. And then remember too, it may, chicken and chicken sound pretty similar, but furutsu, fruit, yeah, just be careful out there. It's an imperfect world. Alrighty? I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm just going to keep pushing on. All right, let's get this phrase out here. We're going to talk about how to say this is meat. This is meat. Okay? And this might be, let's just say, for example, you made some food and you're bringing it to share with some Japanese friends. And same thing. They don't know if they're going to eat meat or fish, and they might have food allergies. So this is an important expression to know. Remember what kore is? It's a pronoun. It can take place of any noun. Okay? It's going to be close to you, and it's something that you're pointing at, perhaps. So this is meat would be kore wa niku. Kore wa niku. All right? And that simply means this is meat. Now, if you're worried about being polite, I know some people are. I'm not really going to talk too much about it, but you're like, Sensei, I always hear people say des all the time. Des. Well, to make this polite, you would just add des. In fact, you can do that for most of these sentences today. Just add des. Kore wa niku desu. Kore wa niku desu. And I'm going to draw more attention to that later, but remember, I want you to be speaking Japanese. I don't want to be sitting here talking about, oh, this is too polite and this is that. Let's just speak Japanese for today, okay? One more time. Kore wa niku. Got it? This is meat. Okay. What about, is this meat? What if you just need to ask that? Is this meat? Once again, great thing about Japanese, just raise your intonation. Kore wa niku? Kore wa niku? So just by raising your intonation like that, it's going to become a question. One more time. Kore wa niku? Is this meat? Now, the word order stayed the same. So actually, if you wanted to be literal, okay, let me just jump ahead here. The word order stays the same. So really, if you had a literal translation, it would be, this is meat? But I wouldn't say that, to somebody who cooked you some nice steak or something. This is meat, right? But in Japanese, that's okay. In Japanese, that doesn't sound rude to say it like that, okay? Kore wa niku? Pretty easy. So, one more time. Kore wa niku. Kore wa niku? Did you notice the difference? Okay. Still no questions, so I'm pushing right along. Today's topic question is once again nani, which means what exactly. So the question of the day, and this is a casual conversational question, is kore wa nani? Right? Kore wa nani? And literally it would be, this is what? But when translating to English, we wouldn't write that. We would say, what is this? What is this? This is water. Kore wa nani? Kore wa mizu. Kore wa mizu. All right. So let's look at the polite version. Remember, I said I'm not going to really dive too much into polite expressions, but you might be using this at a restaurant, and it's better to be polite. So let's try this. Repeat after me. I'm going to say it slowly. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? Do you notice that? The ですか? It's like a springboard. これは何ですか? And that is the question, the polite version of what is this, right? What is this? これは何ですか? So when you're with your friends, use the first one, これは何? But when you're at a restaurant or somewhere a little bit more formal and you don't know the staff very well or you don't know the owner, これは何ですか? And you notice too, by the way, oh, wasn't it nani? Well, in this one, when it's polite, what happened to the ni? It just became nan. Well, we do the same thing in English, right? Cannot, can't. So it's just a contraction. Nani can also be nan. One more time. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? All right. So let's try it out. What is on the top right? There's two possible answers if you identify that as beef. Remember, that's a beef steak. So the answer, it's niku or gyu niku. Gyu niku. So I'm going to play the person asking the question. You can go ahead and play both parts. これは何? これは何? And your answer would be これは肉. これは肉. Or if you called out as beef, then it would be これは牛肉. Easy, right? And again, this is a casual expression because we didn't have the word des anywhere in there. Okay? Des just makes things polite. Okay, so let's look at this. You're at a restaurant, you're trying to be polite. Okay, this time, I mean, for me it's obvious, right? We have some vegetables here. Do you remember the word for vegetable? So we're being polite. Again, I'll play the part of the person asking the question, but feel free to repeat both parts here. これは何ですか? これは何ですか? And since we're being polite, you can feel free to add des in your answer. I hope you got it. これは野菜です. これは野菜です. And remember, I know it looks like it ends in desu, but you don't have to say the su. If it ends in des, just cut it off at the s sound. Alrighty, moving along. There's a couple of words I want you to try. So each time repeat after me. これは何? これは何? This is meat, right? Or beef. これは何? これは肉. これは肉. All right. Next one. Do you remember how to ask? これは何? And the answer is fish, right? これは魚. これは魚. Okay, the last one. That shellfish, okay? I know there's a lot more people who are allergic to shellfish than most other things, so if you are allergic, you want to remember this. これは何? これは貝. これは貝. Okay, so I'm going to throw that exercise back at you that I was talking about earlier. Remember? What was the rule? Ko so a do. Ko so a do. Kore sore are dore. Remember? So, for me, I want to ask, これは何? これは何? Right? Because it's close to me. これは肉. Okay? Now, closer to the listener, how would I ask the listener? How would I ask the listener? Instead of saying これは何? I'm going to change out the word これ. What do you think I'm going to put there? Remember the pronoun close to the listener. Right? So the question, oops, I should, それは何? それは何? それは野菜. それは野菜. All right? And then we have something close to neither of us, remember, if これは何 is something, これは何 is close to me, how would I ask about something that's close to neither of us? So we're going to substitute out これ for あれ, right? あれは何? あれは何? And the answer is fish, right? あれは魚. あれは魚. Cool. So I know this might be hard to grasp all at once. Hey, this video is going to be online after the class, so you can go back and watch it as many times as you need. Okay? So today, you should see a grammar pattern evolving, and I'm just going to highlight what that is. So the expression to say this is a, or this is an, or simply just this is, right? So this is Kevin, or this is a cup, or if I had an apple, this is an apple, right? In Japanese, easy. You don't have to worry about or an. Okay, you just need to remember kore, wa, and then any noun. Okay, kore wa, and then any noun. So kore wa niku, kore wa. Do you remember any of the words from last week? How would you say my friend? Kore wa watashi no tomodachi. So this is my friend, or these are my friends. Okay, so you can literally substitute anything into that noun blank, and it would literally come out like this. This is a, this is an, or this is, and any noun. Kore wa blank. And the same thing works for something that's close to somebody you're talking to. So what do you think we substitute, right? I hope you said you'd substitute out kore for sore. And that's how easy it is in Japanese, right? You don't necessarily need to remember like we have in English. He is, I am, they are. There's all these different articles. In Japanese, kore wa, kore wa, kore wa, watashi wa, tomodachi wa. It doesn't really matter what the first noun is. Noun one is something, okay? And it's going to be, I'll break it down even easier for you. A is B, or A is a B, A is an, something, right? A wa B. A wa B. And in this case, A can be any noun and B can be any noun, right? So thing A is thing B, right? Scott is a sensei. Skoto wa sensei, right? I don't think we covered the word for student, but I'll just say it. So my son, if I had a son, my son is a student. Musuko wa seito, right? Thing A is a thing B. So the more words you learn, the more powerful this expression becomes. And you can substitute anything here, any noun. Okay? So one more time, I'm going to jump back. Remember, kore wa, noun. And that works for the whole koso ado thing too, right? Kore wa mizu. Okay? If it was, from your perspective, it's close to me, right? Sore wa mizu. And if it's next to neither of us, are wa mizu. Are wa mizu. All right, so now we're already learning some cool grammar that you can use every day. And the more grammar you know, the more sentences you'll be able to make. All right, so A wa B. A wa B. Okay, so I thought this lesson would take a little bit longer today. It didn't. we sort of plowed right through it. So I just wanted to let you know that coming up after the lesson is over, I'm going to make a practice quiz. If you had a chance to watch the first lesson, there's also a practice quiz for the first lesson. So I'll make sure that that's in the link on that as well. Enough Japanese 1. And then you should also get ready to set up your devices to start entering text in Japanese. Hopefully you already have, but if you haven't, I've made a video here. If you just type Japanese on iPhone in YouTube, you'll be able to find this video. And I recommend watching. There's actually a 3-video playlist, and it's going to teach you how to enter Japanese into any smartphone or tablet. There's something called Flick, and I won't go into it now, but I really want you to know how to do that because A, you're probably going to make friends here that are Japanese, and B, you're going to want to impress them, right? And send them messages in Japanese. So go ahead, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and stand by for next week, lesson 3,